Hey, how's it going, everybody? Harrison George here with the Harrison George team. And today we're going to be talking about how to determine if doing this first lien HELOC or just applying extra towards your principal really makes sense, and if it really is a big waste of money. We did a video with Chris Noggle where essentially I have seen some individuals say, hey, it makes more sense to just apply more money to your principal as opposed to doing one of these first lien HELOCs. Now, we can get further into the discussion on which makes more sense, and we're going to walk through a little bit of a scenario here today to decide once and for all, really, if in your specific scenario it does or doesn't make sense. Now, I'm going to take a step back a little bit and kind of walk you through some of the uniqueness with this all-in-one product. Again, it is a checking and savings account paired with a home equity line of credit. So every dollar you earn gets applied 100% to your mortgage balance. Now, the benefit of something like this is that while you're waiting to use your money, it's sitting against the balance of your home, reducing what you spend in interest and allowing for you to pay it off faster. Misconception associated with this product is, oh, I could just take money and apply it towards my 30-year mortgage. And you 100% can do that. You can apply extra principal deposits whenever you want and in any amount that you want. Now, there's a few things about that you may not get to take advantage of that you would be able to in this all-in-one loan. So there's something called a recast, which is only really available on conventional loans. And that's when you apply, in many instances, $10,000 or more to your principal balance. And when you do that, you can actually request the servicing company to re-amortize your payment on the remaining amount of months in your mortgage, and that can then reduce your principal and interest on the actual mortgage payment. It's very negligible at the end of the day, but in my mind, I feel like if you qualify for a product like this, the all-in-one, it makes more sense to stick that money into the all-in-one, because the second you put it into your 30-year mortgage, and if you've done a large amount of these, that money is essentially locked away, locked in the walls of your home. The whole point of doing this product is to take advantage of the benefits of both worlds, applying more towards your principal balance and still giving you access to it. Because heaven forbid you need to access $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 in an emergency, and you unfortunately have been depositing $2,000 a month to your mortgage balance, and you don't want to not have access to money when you need it. Because in many instances, if you run into a major life event that no longer allows for you to receive money for a short period of time, the ability to get financing on anything is going to go through the roof in difficulty. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of hard money solutions, but the whole point of doing something like this is to avoid ever needing to put yourself into a risky position. So I'm going to walk through a little bit of this simulator over here, and I've kind of pre-built it up. Obviously, everyone's scenario is going to be a little different. So I'll walk you through kind of some of the key features. So I'm just looking at this as a purchase. Obviously, you could do this as a refinance or not, but it's just easier to just walk you through as a purchase. We're doing it on a primary residence. We're comparing this all-in-one loan to a new loan. And I'm just going to run it on a $500,000 purchase with a $100,000 mortgage balance, 20% down. Just using an estimate on approximate today's rates of about 6.5%. And I'm having this individual say, look, we're applying an extra $1,500 a month to our mortgage balance. That may not be every single dollar that they save on a monthly basis, because I'm guessing that most people aren't going to apply every extra penny to their mortgage balance at the end of every single month, leaving them with no money in their savings account. So as we go through this, I have this family receiving about $10,000 a month in income, not putting in any additional deposits. But if this family, let's say, had another $25,000 put into their account, they could then stick that money into the all-in-one, again, still giving them access to it, but not allowing for that balance to be calculated off of a higher balance. Meaning, right out of the gate, if this person had a $400,000 balance and they put $25,000 into the loan, now they don't owe $400, they owe $375, but whenever they want, they have access to that money. But for the time being, I'm just going to remove the $25,000, and we can look at that in a second, because it certainly may change the results. Perfect. So now we're on the screen that we're talking about spending. This is the screen where essentially we're looking at how much money you have left over at the end of any given month. Now, I'm just using approximates here. I'm just using some level of an example to see if this does or if this doesn't make sense. But I'm having this individual say, look, we save about $3,000 a month and we're going to apply $1,500 to our mortgage balance in a 30-year mortgage. But in the all-in-one, that extra $1,500 is also going to be sitting against their mortgage balance. Again, it's not costing them any extra to do this loan as opposed to any other loan. It's just taking advantage of how this loan calculates interest, which is completely different than how a 30-year mortgage calculates interest. So when we go through this and actually run the results, we see that the individual in a 30-year mortgage is certainly going to pay their home off in a drastically faster amount of time. They're going to pay it off about 20 years faster. They're only going to spend about $175,000 in interest. So when looking at this person in a 30-year mortgage, this is as if they have a 30-year mortgage at an interest rate in the mid twos, which is amazing. And in many instances, I would recommend to do that for the right people. However, for the people that kind of understand the uniqueness of arbitrage and paying down the mortgage balance on this product, you can look over here and see that in the all-in-one, this individual pays it off in about 8.3 years, which is approximately the average time that somebody pays their home off in this mortgage, which is also just amazing. However, you can see that this person only spends $145,000 in interest. They're saving about $30,000. And in my mind, I look at that and say, look, I'm saving $30,000. Let's just say that this was $0. This loan over here, while they're going through life, there are things that can happen that we are not going to be aware of. You may need to go to the doctor. You may need to, you may lose your job. There are so many instances that burden of always needing to make the payment in a 30-year mortgage is always going to be on your shoulders. Whereas in this all-in-one loan, if you've paid the balance down a substantial amount, you have this buffer that other mortgages are not going to allow for you to have. You can't, in many instances, call your mortgage company and say, hey, look, lost my job. I'm going to need a 6-month extension on making any mortgage payments. There are plenty of companies that will work with you and stuff like this, but it's really difficult to work yourself around that. And the benefit of this product is that while you're paying the balance down, you're offsetting your interest. So as you owe less, you pay less, meaning you save more. You're not spending unnecessary dollars to buy a home. The cool thing about this is that if we look at this pay down summary button right here, this loan would be as if you had a 30-year mortgage at a 2% interest rate, a 2.189% interest rate. So even though the loan that we're working on in this specific example, we are calculating at a 7.819 interest rate, mathematically, they would need to get a 30-year mortgage at an interest rate of 2.1% to be equal to the 30-year mortgage. And again, rates today are not in the twos. They're not in the threes. They're not in the fours. In many instances, they're not even in the fives. So this loan, as rates are slightly higher than where they have been historically, at least in the last 10, 15 years, this is a way for you to say, hey, look, my loan, although numerically is at a 7.8% interest rate, I actually am receiving what you in a 30-year mortgage would perceive as a 2% interest rate. So it just blows my mind that there are some unique solutions to financing to help people get out of debt faster. This isn't a gimmick by any means, because if we come back here and we say, well, hey, let's say that person is only spending every single dollar to pay down their mortgage balance. Sure, you could make an argument that it probably wouldn't make sense if that person's only saving $1,500 a month to pay their home off faster and not leave any money in a savings account for them just in case, or their emergency account. But yes, they're going to spend more money in interest. However, if we go even further back and say, look, don't apply $1,500 a month to your 30-year mortgage, but save it in this all-in-one. Now we're comparing a standard 30-year mortgage to the all-in-one, where this individual is saving about $1,500 a month, not applying much in extra principal payments in a 30-year mortgage, then their interest shoots through the roof. Again, this is just a really unique way of taking advantage of the mathematics behind this loan product. All right, let's go back. I kind of feel like I've gone too quick in some of this. Let's go back and set this back up to exactly how it was just a second ago. All right, we're back into the original location where we're seeing the $3,000 going here, and yes, the $1,500 going here. I get it. There is a discrepancy in these two simulations. However, when I'm thinking about it, I personally wouldn't want to apply every extra dollar to my mortgage balance and not leave much of a safety net in my checking and savings account. There likely would be additional funds saved in any given household above and beyond what they would apply to their 30-year mortgage, because I don't perceive that anyone would want to stick every single dollar that they have into their 30-year mortgage. If that is you, that's great. I think that that's awesome. And then I love that that works for you. I personally wouldn't recommend that. Now, we did talk a few minutes ago about this individual maybe receiving a $25,000 initial deposit into their all-in-one. So let's go take a look and see what that does when we just change a initial deposit of $25,000. So look, all we're doing is just applying an extra $25,000 at close. This family may have sold their home. They have a sufficient amount of money for a down payment. They probably have a couple extra bucks. Maybe they even realize that they need to get a new couch, TV. They want to do some work in their garage, add a shed. Doesn't matter. But at the time that they close their home, they're not spending that money right out of the gate. So while they're not using that money, just for the time being, we can come back over here and just add a $25,000 deposit. And we can see we lost about 6 months from the original transaction that we just worked on, and they're saving an additional $20,000 in interest. Again, this is just gravy on top. Yes, they're saving a boatload of money in interest over here, but how can we be more efficient? So for those individuals that want to be as efficient as possible, this product in many instances is going to be the best product for you. Now, if someone says, oh, look, I only have 5% down, but I really want to get into this loan. Well, how most people have done this and built up large amount of money saved is that they do buy their first home and maybe they do put 5% down. And as they put in some elbow grease into the property and work on actually making that property more valuable, and as time goes on, there is going to be an appreciation effect that takes place. And with minuscule amounts of principal reductions as they make their mortgage payment, it's very possible that in 3, 5, 7, 10 years, that person has built up enough equity in their home so that when they go to sell it and the appreciation of their home comes into play, that they have a bigger chunk of change to buy their next home. On average, the average person stays in their home for about 7 to 10 years. And that's probably on the high end. But in reality, if you're not moving for 7 to 10 years, and as you slowly begin to dive deeper into your career, you're likely going to make more money over time. So this is just playing into not just one single transaction. We're not trying to solve just one problem. We're trying to say, hey, look, let's change the mindset that you have associated with financing, and let's figure out how you can get out of debt faster. And even more than that, how you can potentially utilize this account to invest so you can grow your family's net worths and continue to take care of not only your family, but build that lifestyle that you've dreamt of. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Again, there's going to be links in the description. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions. If you think I did something wrong or you would like for me to run a different example, we'd love to hop on a phone call with you guys or even just leave a message down in the comments. Again, thank you so much. Have a great day.